There are lots of words and jargon associated with the concept of a battle or fighting your enemy. And in this breaking story, we all know that the judicial branch of this country is the absolute enemy to Donald J. Trump, and he's been trying to take it over since way back in 2016. But in this breaking story, he is not just the guy on the front end, because those words we use in battle are sometimes also distract and diversion. And sometimes what's happening out front that the media and all of us pay attention to is really just the shiny object to keep you from seeing what's going on in the background. And in this breaking story, you will not necessarily believe what they just tried to do within Washington, D.C. in the background, sneaky play, flanking, trying to come in from behind and take it over without us seeing. I'm going to show you that story in just a few seconds. Let's take a quick reminder and listen to how this has been going on out front first. Here.
Major development in the Supreme Court's clash with the Trump administration about the rule of law. They've had a lot of different ways that Trump officials have tried to test or sneak or maybe defy rulings at the lower court level. Supreme Court, of course, is the final word, and tonight we can report that is still the case in America.
President Trump is launching new attacks on the judicial system and going after judges who have issued dozens of orders blocking his agenda.
If you look at the founders, the president had certain powers, and you have your three groups, and they all had supposed to be pretty equal powers. But you can't have a judge in Boston running foreign policy and places all over the country because he's got a liberal bent or he's a radical left person. That's what the executive branch is for.
The president also lashed out at an unlikely target, conservative legal activist Leonard Leo. The former chair of the Federalist Society was a Trump confidant who helped shape his first-term judicial picks. Trump wrote on Truth Social Friday, "They were under the thumb of a real sleazebag named Leonard Leo, a bad person. I am so disappointed in the Federalist Society because of the bad advice they gave me on numerous judicial nominations."
Yes, Trump always throws even the bestest of pals under the bus when they don't do what he wants, right? And in this breaking story, what happened, what we've never even talked about, what we don't even think about, are elections and leadership within the Bar Association related to Washington, D.C. And who might be involved with that? Let's see, who's the Attorney General? Oh yeah, Bondi. Have you ever heard of his brother? Well, guess what he and another person just tried to do to this country. Here is the story. Breaking news. Trump allies go down in flames in attempted takeover of the Washington, D.C. bar. President Donald Trump's allies made a dash to try and take over the Bar Association for Washington, D.C., but the effort failed badly. In March, NBC News reported that two Trump allies were running for the D.C. bar's leadership. Bradley Bondi, Attorney General Pam Bondi's brother, and Alicia Long, who was a deputy to brief interim U.S. Attorney Ed Martin, tried to seize control. After a vote, Bondi couldn't cross 10% support among the membership. According to the Bar Association website, Diane A. Seltzer received 34,982 votes to Bondi's 3,490 votes. Long did significantly better than Bondi with over 8,800 votes. She still lost, however, to Amanda C. Molina, who had 26,380 votes. As NPR reported in May, the race garnered a lot of attention, resulting in the highest vote among its membership ever. The next largest election was in 1990 and saw less than 1/3 of the participation. In quotes, "My priority is making sure that the rule of law is upheld, that we feel that we are safe to do our jobs, and that we can go forward every day representing the clients we choose," Seltzer said at the time of the NPR interview. As reporter Carrie Johnson explained, in quotes, "The bar president mostly plays an administrative role and has no say in attorney discipline. Seltzer's running against prominent securities attorney Brad Bondi. Bondi has represented billionaire Elon Musk and the Trump Media and Technology Group." Also, in quotes, "Big win for the D.C. bar, and Democracy President-elect Diane Seltzer triumphed with a staggering 90% of the vote. Given what one Bondi has done as AG, we did not need to take a risk on another heading the D.C. bar, commented Norm Eisen, a former ethics czar for Barack Obama's administration. In quotes, if they were going to make me vote for the first time in D.C. bar elections, or at least the person I voted for won convincingly, I will now resume not caring about the D.C. bar one iota, said D.C. lawyer Sean Murata. You see, we never hear about that. And yet, here's a guy who's a GOP Republican, whose sister is the complete sycophant attorney general, who's not bringing investigations into anything remotely associated with all of the wrongdoing of ICE, the Department of Homeland Security, Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, or anyone else. And yet this guy is so upset because for the first time in his life he didn't get his way. Wah! The elitist babies of D.C., especially when you're a lawyer. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I have played one on television more than once. And let's listen real quick, just for a laugh, at his crybaby social post about barking at the D.C. bar for not giving Daddy Bondi his way. Listen to this real quick as we go. So Brad Bondi's very sad and likes to say, don't blame Brad Bondi for his sister. No, we could just blame him for being himself. But here is his statement post this story. Statement from Brad Bondi on outcome of the 2025 D.C. bar election. Today, the results of the 2025 D.C. bar president election were announced, and although I did not prevail, I stand with a heart full of gratitude and a mind heavy with concern for the future of the D.C. bar. I had hoped this race would be a contest of ideas to enhance services for our widely varied members, a chance to discuss free, on-demand CLEs, instant certificates of good standing, a stronger ethics hotline, and expanded pro bono programs that would unite us in service from big law to solo practice. Instead, I am disgusted by how rabid partisans lurched this election into the political gutter, turning a professional campaign into baseless attacks, identity politics, and partisan recrimination. Never before has the D.C. bar election been leveraged along partisan lines in this way, an explicit call for members to vote based not on what's best for the institution, but according to their political affiliation. Sidebar, that's interesting he would say that considering his sister. Their tactics, which included smearing me over my family and peddling conspiracies about my intentions, were not just an assault on my integrity, but on the D.C. bar's very mission. But by giving in to these partisan impulses, we risk a never-ending cycle of political strong-arming where every election becomes a proxy for national divides, and the bar's unity is fractured beyond repair. I caution that the bar may never recover from this politicization, a tragedy that would erode its ability to serve as a home for all members, replacing impartiality with ideological litmus tests that alienate and divide. We've seen other institutions fall to this temptation. Yes, mostly known as the White House, by the way, losing their credibility and purpose. The bar must not follow that path. I remain steadfast in my belief that the bar should be a place of service, not division. My campaign was built on that vision, and though the outcome is not what I hoped, I am deeply grateful for the thousands of members who reached out and supported me. Less than 10%, by the way. I will continue to serve this community as I always have, with dedication, honor, integrity, justice, and a commitment to my clients and to the principles that make our profession noble. I urge the bar's new leadership to reject the siren song of partisanship and return to our apolitical mission, ensuring every lawyer feels at home here. The stakes are high, but I believe in the enduring strength of our shared purpose. Let us recommit to a bar that lifts us all, a place where service, not politics, defines who we are. Thank you again for your support. I remain your colleague and friend, ready to work together for a better future. Sorry, B&B. You didn't get your way. You didn't even get close. You got 10% of the vote. Shut up, go home, and stay away. You guys stay frosty.